Rain poured over VGC like the sky itself had cracked open. The yellow streetlights shook inside puddles as Daniel ran through the nearly empty road, his shoes splashing muddy water behind him. His breathing was fast, sharp, every step heavier than the last. Behind him, a black SUV turned the corner. Its headlights cut through the rain. Daniel looked back. His heart almost stopped. They had found him again. His phone buzzed in his hand. Another message. Pay before sunrise or your mother will pay for your mistake. His fingers shook. The SUV sped up. Daniel ran harder. His chest burned. Then he saw it. At the end of the street stood St. Michael's Catholic Church. The gate was slightly open. He rushed inside. The heavy wooden doors closed behind him. The noise from outside became distant. Only the soft sound of rain on stained glass remained. Daniel stood still. The smell of candle wax and incense hit him immediately. Same pews, same altar, same silence. This was the same church his father used to bring him to every Sunday. The last time Daniel entered this church was after his father's burial. That morning he had knelt in front of the altar and asked God why his father had to die. No answer came. So he left and never returned until tonight. He sat quietly at the last pew, water dripping from his clothes. Then he heard someone crying. A woman sat 3 rows ahead, head bowed, hands clasped tightly, trying to cry quietly, but pain always has a sound. She stood and walked toward the candle stand. That was when Daniel saw her properly. Toge. Simple blue dress, no makeup, no effort to impress, just tired eyes and quiet pain. Daniel slowly stood up.
Are you okay?
She turned, gave a tired smile.
I should ask you the same thing. You look like the world is chasing you.
Daniel gave a weak laugh.
Well, it is.
She looked at him for a moment, then said softly,
Sometimes people only come back to church when life becomes too heavy. Sometimes life breaks us in places we never thought it could. But that doesn't mean we're finished.
Daniel looked at her. That line entered him deeply because it was true. They sat together, the church quiet, rain still falling outside. Toge finally opened up. Her younger brother Toby was in the hospital. He needed surgery urgently. The family did not have enough money. Daniel listened, then slowly opened up too. Daniel was once a fast-rising event planner in Lagos. Sharp suits, luxury clients, island parties. He borrowed heavily to fund a celebrity event, but the client pulled out last minute. Everything crashed. Debts mounted, people threatened him. And worse, his fiancée left. He opened up about the failed business, the borrowed money, the threats, and his mother. Everything was falling apart. Toge did not judge him. She simply listened. That night changed everything. Daniel started coming back. Every day. Days turned into a routine. Church, hospital, late evening talks outside the church compound. Daniel helped with Toby's medications, bought food for Toby's mother, spent time making Toby laugh. The bonds between them grew naturally, slowly. One evening on the hospital balcony,
You smile differently now.
How?
Like someone who is no longer running from himself.
Daniel looked at her, quietly. For the first time in months, his chest felt lighter. Something real was growing between them. And just when he started to trust that feeling, everything changed. The next morning, Daniel went to the hospital billing office to ask about the surgery payment. As he stepped out into the corridor, he froze. Standing at the end of the hallway was Chief, the man behind the debt whose boys had been chasing him, and the same man behind his father's high BP that led to its death. Daniel's face changed instantly. Then he looked by his side. Tokay, standing close to the older man. Daniel stared. His heart dropped.
Toki?
She turned. Shock filled her face.
So this is where you've been hiding.
You know him? How long have you known?
I didn't know it was you.
So what was all this? A pity? A setup?
Daniel, no. My brother is really sick. Everything I told you was true, I swear.
Daniel looked from Chief to Tokay, confused, hurt. The hospital corridor suddenly felt too bright, too small. Daniel stepped back slowly. Every conversation, every moment, every smile, suddenly he questioned all of it. Daniel laughed bitterly, pain more than anger. Tokay's eyes filled with tears. But trust had already cracked. Daniel walked away. That night, Daniel confronted his mother. The moment he mentioned Chief, her face changed. She sat down slowly, then finally told him the truth. Years ago, after Daniel's father lost his job, he borrowed money from Chief. The debt was never fully cleared. When Daniel later borrowed for his own business, Chief combined both debts. Daniel sat in silence. This was bigger than him. He wasn't only carrying his own failure. He was carrying old family pain. The hospital called. Toby needed surgery by the next morning. Payment had to be made immediately. Daniel looked at the only valuable thing left, his father's wristwatch. He stared at it for a long time, the last gift from his father. Then slowly removed it, sold it, paid the surgery deposit, said nothing. Tokay later found out.
You sold your father's watch?
Your brother needed help. That mattered more.
After everything? You still helped us?
Pain brought us together. But it doesn't have to keep hurting us.
Tokay broke down completely. Daniel looked at her, quietly. That was the moment forgiveness truly began. Weeks passed. Toby's surgery day finally came. The hospital corridor was tense. Toby's mother sat quietly with the rosary in her hand, whispering prayers under her breath. Daniel stood by the window, watching the rain begin to fall outside. His face was calm, but inside he was carrying too much. The surgery had already taken almost 3 hours. Every second felt longer than the last. Then the theater doors opened. The doctor stepped out. Everyone stood immediately. Tokay's hands were shaking. For a moment, nobody spoke. Then Tokay broke down. Not the quiet tears from the church. This was deep, uncontrollable crying. The kind that comes after carrying fear for too long. Her mother hugged her tightly. Daniel let out a breath he didn't even realize he had been holding. Toby was going to live. As they stepped out of the hospital building that evening, a black SUV pulled up. Daniel stopped walking. Chief stepped out. Tokay immediately stiffened. Her face changed. She clearly had no idea he was coming. Chief looked straight at Daniel, cold and serious.
You sold your father's watch to save another man's child, even after finding out who we are.
Daniel looked at him, steady.
Toby is not another man's child. He is family to someone who showed me kindness when I had nothing.
Chief held his gaze for a few seconds, then His face softened slightly.
Your father once stood exactly where you are standing. Proud, stubborn, trying to protect everyone. I thought you were just another boy running from debt. But you chose responsibility. You chose truth.
He reached into his pocket and brought out an envelope.
The rest of the debt is cleared.
Daniel stared at him. Toke stared too. Shock.
What? Consider it paid. Not because of pity. Because for the first time, I see a man willing to lose everything and still choose what is right. That is worth more than money.
Chief turned sharply, walked away. 3 months later, Daniel is adjusting decorations for a modest birthday event. Simple, beautiful, honest work. The event business was slowly growing again, this time without lies, without borrowed money, and without fake appearances. Toke walked in. She looked around and smiled.
You built this from scratch?
Daniel smiled.
This time, the right way.
She stepped closer.
I'm proud of you.
Daniel looked at her for a moment, then said quietly,
You know, that night in church, I thought I was running from people, but I was actually running from myself.
Toke's eyes softened.
And now?
Daniel looked around the room, at his work, at his mother laughing with Toby in the corner, at the life he was rebuilding, then back at her.
Now, I know healing doesn't start when life gets easier. It starts when you stop hiding.
Toke smiled and held his hand, this time not with sadness, with warmth and with certainty.